There is a type of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. It's the loneliness of those who dare to think differently, of those who refuse to repeat the ready-made truths that the crowd chews without questioning. And this type of loneliness has a price that few are willing to pay, but that all the great spirits of history have known intimately. Nietzsche called this the destiny of free spirits. And today, you're going to discover why thinking for yourself can be the most liberating and, at the same time, the most devastating thing you'll ever do in your life. Let's start with the truth that nobody likes to admit. Most people don't think. They just recycle opinions, repeat cliches, follow paths already walked by millions before them. And it's not out of laziness or stupidity. It's because truly thinking for yourself, is an act of rebellion against everything we've been taught since childhood. It's defying family, society, religion, culture. It's looking into the abyss and realizing that all the certainties that sustained you were just comfortable illusions. Nietzsche understood this better than anyone. He knew that truth doesn't come accompanied by applause. It comes accompanied by misunderstanding, by rejection, by a deafening silence from those who once walked by your side. When you start questioning the narratives that were imposed on you, something strange happens. You begin to feel like a stranger in your own world. Conversations that once made sense now seem empty. The certainties that everyone shares sound like collective lies. You look around and realize you're surrounded by people living on autopilot, following rules they never chose, believing in values they never examined. And the worst part, you can no longer pretend that you belong to this world. Nietzsche called this the awakening of the free spirit. But awakening has a cost. You lose the comfort of ignorance. You lose the feeling of belonging. You even lose the respect of those who are still asleep. Think for a moment. How many times have you kept an opinion to yourself because you knew you would be misunderstood? How many times have you pretended to agree with something just to avoid conflict, to not be isolated? This is society's silent trap. It doesn't need to imprison you with chains. It imprisons you with the threat of ostracism, with the fear of being alone. And it works. Most people prefer to live in the comfortable prison of collective beliefs than to face the frightening vastness of freedom of thought. But you who are watching this now, you've already felt this discomfort. You've already noticed that there's something wrong with the way people live. And once you see it, there's no looking away. Nietzsche's philosophy is not for the weak-spirited. He wasn't interested in offering comfort or easy answers. On the contrary, he ripped off masks, exposed wounds, forced you to face the rawness of existence. For Nietzsche, humanity had become domesticated, weak, dependent on pious lies to endure life. Religion, traditional morality, inherited values, all of this were crutches for those who didn't have the courage to create their own values. And thinking for yourself meant precisely that, destroying the old tablets of values and erecting new ones, not because someone said it was right, but because you decided it was necessary. But here's what nobody tells you about this path. When you start thinking for yourself, you don't just lose friends, you lose entire versions of yourself. That person you were, with their inherited beliefs, their dreams molded by others, their borrowed ambitions, that person dies. And the mourning for this death is real. You miss the innocence, the simplicity of just following the herd. There are days when you look back and wonder if it wouldn't be easier to go back, pretend you didn't see, erase this thirst for truth that now consumes you. But there's no going back. Once the mind expands, it no longer fits in the old cage. Nietzsche lived this in his own flesh. He was a brilliant man, but profoundly lonely. His books were ignored, his ideas ridiculed, his contemporaries incapable of understanding the depth of what he was saying. He wrote for the future, for people who hadn't yet been born, because he knew his time wasn't ready to receive him. And this is the curse of the independent thinker. You become a stranger in time, displaced, misunderstood, carrying truths that nobody wants to hear. But he didn't stop. He didn't go back. He paid the price because he knew the alternative was worse, living a lie. Now let me ask you a question. Do you really want to think for yourself, or do you just want to feel special, different, without having to face the consequences? Because there's a huge difference between superficially questioning and really committing to the search for truth. Many people love the idea of being a free spirit, but few are willing to give up the applause, the status, the social comfort that comes from being aligned with the majority. Nietzsche had a devastating phrase for this. There are those who want to be free, but only from the responsibility of their own freedom. The truth is that thinking for yourself requires courage, and not a momentary courage, the kind you feel when you watch a motivational video. It's the daily courage to endure loneliness, to resist pressure, to keep walking even when everyone tells you you're wrong. It's the courage to doubt even yourself, to question your own conclusions, to admit that you might be wrong and start over from scratch. Because the true thinker doesn't just seek comfortable truths, he seeks the truth, even if it destroys everything he believed. And here's something few people realize. When you think for yourself, you're not just changing your own life, you're challenging the invisible structure that keeps everything in place. Society depends on consensus, on repetition, on uniformity. When someone breaks with this, when someone dares to live according to their own truths, it creates a crack in the system. The people around you feel this, and they react with fear, with anger, with attempts to bring you back. Not because they hate you, but because your freedom exposes their prison. Your authenticity reveals their falseness, and that is unbearable. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. If you feel you're on this path, that you've started to question, to see beyond appearances, then subscribe so you don't miss this journey. Because what we're going to explore now goes even deeper. Nietzsche had a concept that explains all of this perfectly: the eternal return. Imagine that you had to live your life exactly as you're living it now, infinite times forever. Every choice, every lie you swallowed, every moment you betrayed yourself to please others, all of this repeating eternally. Would you accept it, or would you feel horror? This idea is a test to reveal whether you're living a life worthy of being repeated, or if you're just surviving, postponing, pretending. And for most people, the answer is terrifying. Because the truth is that we betray ourselves every day. We accept jobs we hate, relationships that suffocate us, beliefs that limit us. And we do this not out of necessity, but out of fear. Fear of disappointing, fear of failing, fear of being alone. Nietzsche knew this. He knew that humanity was governed not by reason, but by fear, and that the only way to transcend this fear was to embrace it, look at it, without averting your eyes, and choose the truth anyway. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. Thinking for yourself is not just destroying old beliefs, it's also creating new ones. It's becoming the architect of your own existence. Nietzsche called this the will to power, not in the sense of dominating others, but of dominating yourself, of becoming who you really are and not who you were told you should be. It's the power to say no to the world when it demands your conformity. It's the power to say yes to your own nature, even when it's wild, contradictory, frightening. And here's the brutal paradox. The more you think for yourself, the more alone you feel, but also the more complete. Because you stop seeking external approval and start building an unshakable internal approval. You stop living for others and start living for yourself. And this, while liberating, is also terrible. Because it means you can no longer blame anyone. You can no longer say that society, family, destiny is responsible for your unhappiness. You become totally responsible. And absolute responsibility is the heaviest burden a human being can carry. Nietzsche went insane at 44 years old. Some say it was a physical illness, others believe it was the weight of carrying so many truths alone. He spent the last years of his life in silence, absent, as if he had gone too far and could no longer return. And there's something terribly poetic about this, as if the price of seeing too much was losing the ability to live in the common world. But even so, his words survived. His ideas echoed through time and continue to liberate minds to this day. So what's the answer? Is it worth thinking for yourself if the price is so high? Nietzsche would say there's no choice. Once you awaken, once you see, you can no longer pretend. You can try, you can postpone, you can anesthetize yourself with distractions, but the truth will haunt you. It will knock on the door of your consciousness until you face it. And when you finally face it, when you finally accept the price, something magical happens. You become free. Not free from consequences, not free from pain, but free from the lie. And that's the only freedom that really matters. In the end, the price of thinking for yourself is not something you pay once. It's something you pay every day, in every choice to speak the truth when it would be easier to lie, in every moment of loneliness when it would be more comfortable to belong, in every instant of doubt when it would be safer to be certain. But it's also in this daily payment that you become someone, not a copy, not a reflection, but an original. And in a world full of copies, being original is the most radical act of courage that exists. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this message touched you. It's because you've already felt, somehow, this weight and this freedom. So don't let this reflection die here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because the most important ideas are not those that comfort us, they are those that transform us. And transformation always begins with a single decision.